Life of a sailor, and for all of us in life, we have rough seas, don't we? But sometimes, I don't know where you're at right now, whether you're sat there on the bridge facing that. If you are in your life, maybe this weekend we'll give you some tools, some ideas, some prayer, so that you can get through that. Because I can sit there and pray all I like about that, it's still coming. It's going to come, but it's how we deal with it, whether we're prepared for it, whether we're ready to deal with what's coming on Monday or even tonight, you know. And the ship, all being well, take a bit of a battering. You might bend a few bits on the front end, but you'll come through, or if we've taken the necessary precautions. Or, you know, you may be in this position. You may be all tranquil and lovely. That's one of my favourite pictures from my time in the Navy. That's HMS Chatham down in South Georgia, and just to get an idea of the size of that, the glacier is a mile away from the ship. Amazing. So life throws at us big rough seas, walls of water coming towards you, and then at other times we're there. I don't know where you are this weekend, but I just pray that God will speak to you this weekend, wherever, whatever it is that you're facing, that we're facing. Very quickly now, I'm going to run through a little bit of my background. My first ship was HMS Newcastle, Type 42 destroyer. As you can see, it's a bit of a shoddy photograph. That's because it was scrapped a few years ago. I became a Christian in my first year in the Navy. I was brought up in a Christian home. Parents both Christians. My brother became a Christian when he was about 2 months old, I think, because he was always good from the moment he was like that. I think he was born knowing the Lord in a mighty, powerful way. I wasn't. But I came to faith in 1979. A guy basically told me that I wasn't going to heaven on my mum and dad's faith, which, really? Nobody had ever told me that before, at which point I decided to do something about it. But I don't know about you, but it didn't make an immediate change in my life. I knew something had happened, but I didn't really, that grew. That came steadily and still is growing. I joined this ship for my first year away, and I got myself right in the poo fairly early on in my naval career. I don't know if you've been there, done that one, ticked that box. I ended up in naval detention quarters which was the naval prison back then, for coming back from ashore in Mombasa and asking the officer of the day, the officer of the watch at the top of the gangway, whether he wanted some marijuana, which I happened to have a big packet of in my pocket, which didn't go down very well. It's a funny old thing, that. And so I ended up doing 36 days at Her Majesty's pleasure. But that was fun. I'll spin you the whole story later if you like. But when I came out, one of the things that touched me straight away was the unconditional love and acceptance of Christians in the Navy. They didn't focus on it. They put it was if you've done it, you've dealt with it, let's move on. And I think that's a big lesson for us, isn't it? And actually, we don't focus on other people, what people have done in the past. That's between them and God, not for us to keep bringing it up. And that was a real lesson for me. And then I moved on to HMS Southampton. Again, spent a couple of years away on her at sea. This is where I met Helen, and that's I give this thing to all sorts of people. And they always talking about, if you're in the submarine fleet, there are two types of ships: submarines and targets, and that's us through a periscope. Again, she's been something. Now, I have already mentioned this next ship to a couple of you. For your American guys out there, this next ship caused us some real heartache when we went to America. I served for 2.5 years on HMS Beaver. When you're sat in a bar in America, they say, "Oh, you're in the Royal Navy. What ship are you on?" "I'm on the Beaver." "You're on the what?" "You've got a ship called the Beaver?" "Yes, we had. Yes, just get over it." We spent many months then on the Beaver doing, this was Cold War days, we were doing a lot of anti-submarine patrols up the Ice and Faroes Gap, lots of wonderful months, lolling along at 4 knots looking for Russian submarines. Great fun, sort of. Our Miller patrols, Gulf patrols, you remember when the Americans, and I use that term loosely, sadly shot down the Airbus of Vincennes. We were coming through behind at the time, and that was quite an experience. We were sort of involved in that. But Beaver was a good time, and I was beginning to grow as a Christian. I was beginning to take responsibility on board for church services and looking after the Christians on board the ship. And the Naval Christian Fellowship, which does what it says on the tin, it's a fellowship for Christians in the Navy, was a key part in that, and more of that as we progress through. Then this is for you guys, that's one of your little carriers in the background. Well, I didn't have a wide enough angle lens to get the big one in with us in the foreground. I never forget, we were working with one of the massive ones, Nimitz or something, and our helicopter, which was the pride of the Royal Navy, came. It was coming along underneath the flight deck, and they were calling it on the radio going. Can't remember the call sign. Where are you? Where are you? And he just went, I'm here! And you guys weren't very happy with that. All against protocol. We thought it was very funny. Yeah, that's how it works. Cumberland, again, was another great learning time for me. You have those periods in life, don't you, when you can look back and you see that God was really doing stuff. There were 13 Christians on board the ship, which was amazing. A ship's company of 280, other ships where there's just been one or two. And God really was working in that little group of Christians. We were witnessing to others, outreach and all that sort of stuff on board the ship. Really good time. But a lot of time away from home. And one of those times I really felt like jacking it all in. I had enough. HMS Sheffield, great time, loved Sheffield. A lot of disaster relief, Hurricane Mitch out in the Caribbean. We were first in there. And working, as you can see there, we were working with the relief agencies. What you do with a hurricane is you actually, we were alongside in some kits, and the hurricane's coming, so we go to sea. Get out of here. So we went out to sea, obviously, and come back in again. To see the devastation after the hurricane had come through was quite something. An interesting time of working with hurricanes. And one of the key things I remember from that time was with Sheffield was starting to get involved a lot more. I was just playing a ship's band. And I don't know about you guys, but all too often blokes, and we'll come on to this a little bit more when we talk about some of the CVM stuff, we can just end up spending all our time with Christians. And that was one of the challenges on there. There were 13 other Christians, 13 of us on board. And you spend all your time with Christians. How on earth can you do outreach if you're spending all your time with other Christians? And we'll talk more about that in a minute as we go through the CVM stuff. And that was eventually sold to Brazil. That's flying under the Brazilian flag at the bottom. And then my final ship, HMS Chatham, I was what was known as the executive warrant officer on board. I was the senior non-commissioned officer, regimental sergeant major. I'm not quite sure what you call that, but in the Navy, Master Chief, is it ship Master Chief or whatever? And I was that on board. I was responsible for the running of the ship underneath the captain and the first lieutenant. An amazingly brilliant position to be in, particularly as a Christian, because you could have a real influence on what was going on around you. And some challenges there as well. And we'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow, about work and how, as a Christian, you can influence what's going on around you. But you can also just stand back and let stuff go on around you that actually, as a Christian, should we be doing. And we'll talk about this tomorrow, some of those challenges that we face at work with what's going on in our area. So that was the mighty Chatham, and we, again, disaster relief. We were out of the Gulf when the Boxing Day tsunami hit, and we were just outside the Straits of Hormuz in the Indian Ocean end. We were all revved up and raring to go. But the good old British government were on their Christmas holidays, so they would not make a decision to send anybody. It was great. We were really happy about that. So the fleet said, well, we haven't got a decision to send you, so what we'll do is you carry on through, pick up your normal programme. So we went through the Straits, we went into Dubai, and the captain said, well, we'll just store ship. So we stored ship, topped up massively, and we were supposed to be alongside them until after the new year. But the captain said, I'm happy with this. There was devastation going on, just 2-3 days steam away. So we went back out against orders, And again, this is something sometimes, as men, we have to think, right, what are we doing? Are we blindly obeying stuff? Is there something actually maybe we need to challenge in authority? And as a Christian man, sometimes that comes. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow and discuss that. But anyway, we went back out and we saw on the, beginning to see on television the actual complete devastation down there. So the captain said, blow it, I'm off. So we steamed, full steam, off down the Indian Ocean without orders, burning up the fuel. And then about 3 days after, the government finally decided, yes, we'll send a warship. Who's closest? HMS Chatham. Is she in Dubai? Yes, that's right. When will she get there? In about 10 minutes. Don't worry, don't ask. But the captain made that call, and it was the right call. It was a challenging period. You can see some of the work our guys were doing, getting stuck in. What we ended up doing was we picked an area, small area. We're just a warship. We're not equipped really for massive humanitarian relief, but we've got 280 people who want to help, and that is like our greatest asset, if you like. So we picked this area, a town called Batticaloa, and on the way down, the guy on the bottom left-hand side there is bottom right, was our chaplain, a guy called Tommy Goodwin. And the guys and girls were saying, what can we do? We can't do anything. There's so much. What can we bring? And he said something that I've never forget. He said, we'll do what we can, where we are, with what we've got. And I think that's a great, as Christians, we can't attack world poverty. We can't sort out the homeless problem in London as individuals. But we can work sort out maybe the one homeless person who's on our high street. We can do something for him. So we need to do what we can where we are with what we've got. Sometimes the scale of the task that's before us can overwhelm us and we end up doing nothing. I mentioned all the way through this the Naval Christian Fellowship. The Naval Christian Fellowship it's been around for about 65 years and links together Christians in the Navy. For fellowship, Bible study, for prayer, we had weekends last weekend. We have a conference together, and it's all about people in the same situation being able to understand what's going on. So that's what the Naval Christian Fellowship is about. And I left in 2007 to head up the Naval Christian Fellowship, and that's our newest destroyer and our newest Astute class submarine, Type 45. And we're there to support and encourage Christians in the Navy, Marines, Fleet Auxiliary, and we've got some worldwide stuff as well, international stuff that we do. It's a challenging place to be a Christian, as I'm sure you can imagine. You sail for 6 months, you're in a mess deck, sometimes of up to 50 people, 50 other blokes, made probably the only Christian in that mess deck, possibly on board the ship. You may have a chaplain, you may not have a chaplain. It's not guaranteed due to the fact that they've got a lot of ships to cover. So you very soon find out your weak spots, and they very soon test you, challenge you, prod you, probe you, and it's 24/7. So for a young 18, 19-year-old Christian straight from school, it's a baptism of fire, and you very soon learn you either sink or you swim as a Christian. And NCF is there to help support and encourage them. And this is some of the groups. That's church in the engine room down HMS Ark Royal. On a Sunday morning, switch the engines off and do church in the engine room. Fellowship in the Sea Dart power room on a Type 42. It's Christians getting together down there, and that's fellowship in our home. We've run a weekly home group for the last 20 odd years, every Wednesday. And they're an interesting bunch, sailors. One very quick story about they just don't get it. Young people have no concept about Christianity anymore. Most of them just have no idea. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, about men as well. But you remember the film that came out a few years ago, Passion of Christ? I thought we were away, so I thought I'd put this on Good Friday. seemed reasonable, so I put posters up around the ship that we were going to put this film on. And I was coming out of our dining hall, and as I came out of our dining hall, and on the opposite side of the passageway, there was a notice board, and there's one of the posters up there for it. And the lads were queuing up the passageway for their dining hall. And one of the lads said, "Oi, sir, what are you showing a horrible film like that for on Good Friday?" So I just sort of, and one of the other lads in character, "I'll sort him out for you, sir." Cheers, boys. I'm not sure that's discipline, right? But it worked. Our verse as NCF is this. This is from the Message version, and I think it's a cracking verse for us, for all of us to take on board. Trust God from the bottom of your heart. For blokes, the next line is actually quite hard. Don't try to figure out everything on your own, because we like to, don't we? We want to, because that's blokey. We want to do that. And we don't like to listen for God's voice, because we don't like to listen for anybody's voice, because we think we know it all. But ultimately, He is the one who will keep us on track. And that's a cracking verse to remember. So that's a little bit about me, where I've come from, and then we'll move on to Christian Vision for Men. We'll talk a bit about Christian Vision for Men. How are we doing for time? We'll be done by about 9:30, fellas. Is that all right? 9:30-ish. Men and church. If you think about the blokes you know, if you were to ask them who they thought church was for, who do you think they'd say? Who is church for? Who most blokes out there think goes to church?
Old people.
Old people?
Women.
Women?
Children.
Yeah.
Sinners.
Do you think most people would say sinners?
Religious people.
Religious people?
Yeah.
Hypocrites, all those things. A BBC survey a few years ago, these were the most popular answers. The final one, which actually is most people, they just don't even register. Church is just completely irrelevant. It's just off their radar. So I don't really care who goes. I don't know. So for most people, that's where we are. I'll skip that one. Blokes are falling away from church at an alarming rate. Okay, we're talking about going to church. Now this is a UK, guys, all right? Please don't tell me in the southern states it's not, but it's another debate, maybe we'll have it over a pint. But in the UK church, this is a very highly accurate CVMen graph, as you'll know, or not, as the case may be. But basically, if we don't do something to arrest the decline of men in the church, there won't be any left on this current trajectory by about 2030. So we've got to do something about it. We have got to do something about halting the decline of men in the UK church and in the church in general. We're very good in the church, and it's interesting to hear youth work going on. Brilliant. Please, I'm not slagging youth work off. Please don't take this next slide as slagging youth work off. But some interesting things here. If you win a child for Christ, 3.5% families follow, statistically. Mother, 17%. Bloke, 93%, statistically. We put millions of pounds into youth work. We have great stuff, events running for women. What do we do for blokes? Not a lot. Maybe have a really tacky breakfast once a month in most UK churches. We really need to be looking at winning the father if we want to win the family. And the church are not very good at it. And this is where CVMen has begun to pick up the baton and run with it. You may have heard of the thing called the father effect. If you take the father out of the family situation, or a decent male role model, I use the term father because that's traditionally in a Christian. Children with an absent father we can win men for Jesus, we can have an incredible effect on society. Because, looking back to the previous statistic, 93% of the times the family are going to follow. And we can have a huge effect on what's going on in our nation. And I think, if there's no other reason, that's a pretty good reason for outreach to men. Do you think those are reasonable values that we express in church? Christian values, if you like? Is that fair, generally? Yeah. Be loving, we look at relationships, we support each other, nurture one another, community, share together, all that stuff. Like that. This column. You see much of that in our church. We encourage people to be competent, to achieve stuff. Do we give goals, targets, all that stuff? Certainly, probably not, to be honest. Those are male and female values from straight out of men are from Mars and women are from Venus. So what does that say to your average bloke who doesn't come to church? Straight away. For him, what does that say the church is for? More suited for women. So we've got to address that as well. That's another area of CVM's work that we're looking at. Men and women are different. I'm really sorry I haven't got the video. I'm really sorry I haven't got that. There are reasons. I'll give you an example of men and women being different from my personal experience. We were coming back from a 6-month deployment on the Beaver, and we were coming into Plymouth, been away for 6 months. Ben, our eldest, was born 3 weeks before we deployed, so I've been away for 6 months, haven't seen him, and there's no email, no Skype, none of that stuff, so I had the odd photograph. And there's an amazing moment when you come back into port, when you make eye contact with your spouse, your wife, friend, family, whoever it is, and it's just the best. It's almost worth going away for 6 months for that moment when you come back. And I was looking, I saw her, and I'm looking, seeing her, and then she was over there, and then all of a sudden we made eye contact. You knew, it's just amazing. And I looked at Helen, being a bloke, and I thought, blimey, she's gone grey since I've been away. So I'm lifting my cap up, doing this, and you've gone grey, what's going on? You've only got one child, you're going grey. She thought I was saying, oh, that's lovely. He's noticed that Ben's hair colour is the same as his. So she's waving a 7-month-old baby above her head, shouting at the top of her voice, it's yours, it's yours! Meaning the hair colour. Men and women are different, aren't they? Yeah, and all the lads on the ship are going, is that yes? And honestly, there was this perceptible moment on board. The jetty was just silent for just about 3 seconds, and everyone was like, it's yours! It was just one of those priceless moments, but she will tell that story herself. So, she puts a slightly different thing on it, but that's absolutely true. In fact, we found the diary. We're moving in a few weeks, and we found the diary, which my version and hers were nigh on exactly the same, which was quite reassuring after I've been saying that story for the last 10 years. And more longer than that. Blokes, on average, you can probably see them actually, can't you? So we'll stop around that. It takes 5 years on average for somebody to come to know Jesus from first hearing the gospel. It takes 30 times to be told the gospel. This isn't statistics. I mean, you know, obviously God can do what he likes. He can do it like that. And it can take longer. 80% are brought by a mate to come to know Jesus. And most blokes are tongue-tied. Most blokes don't do talking. It's fair, isn't it? So we've got to be in this stuff. We've got to be about evangelism to men, outreach to men. As CVM said, we've got to be in it for the long haul. You can't just do it. Okay? So we've invented 4 really complicated, sophisticated stages of bringing a mate to Jesus. They're really difficult. You might want to take notes. First one is mates and mates. I don't want an answer to this, necessarily, but how many non-Christian mates have you got? And it's in a lot of, certainly I know in my church, for most of them, they ain't got any. And it's a real challenge, because most of our friendships are within the church. So you make some mates, and then you're out with them and you mention Jesus in conversation. Then you tell them loads more about him. And finally,
Stop calling you.
you see them become committed. It's easy. That's it. Okay? That's it. But we're not very good at it. The church, certainly in the UK, comes in generally starting here. We come in with, invite your mate to an alpha course. He's not going to come, is he? Mostly, unless you journey with him a little bit. So that's, that's where we're at. And one of the key things, and we'll skip through some of this fairly quickly, but happy to talk about it later. And this is where the UK church gets it wrong with men. And level 1 is about, it's not about Bible study, it's not about prayer, well, it's about you praying in the background, but it's not about that with them. It's about forming a relationship, forming a bond, letting them see that you're a normal bloke who enjoys the sort of stuff that they do, and forming that bond and relationship, which gives you then an opening to tell them about Jesus because they see that you're normal. So what do you do? What do you enjoy doing? What are you good at? Get out there and do it with non-Christian blokes. Simple as. And if you like, this is a great idea of a church level 1. Oh no! Got nothing better to do on a Sunday afternoon? A great level 1 event, and it can double as a baptism. Whatever you want to do. And you never guess which country that came from? Germany. Say no more.
Mega whoosh.
But level 1 is simply about doing stuff together, doing what you enjoy. That's a real challenge for our churches. Get out there and do stuff. It doesn't have to be complicated. For us on board ship, this is some of the stuff we used to have to get involved in. So I used to play at ship's band, that's me playing ship's band. And at the top there, we used to do stuff on the flight there called horse racing. We have, get up there and do have a great night. We do horse racing generally. When we're down the South Atlantic, we do penguin racing, so we'd have little penguins. And don't forget, we were operating off Italy once and we did pope racing. We have 4 little popes running up and down the field. Enough of that. I'll miss that next one. But it's all about doing what you enjoy. Invite a friend. Then the level 2 events. Imagine you've been playing golf with a bloke, for example. You've been playing golf with 2 or 3 friends, and regularly, and then the church lays on a curry with a Christian professional golf bloke giving his testimony at the end. That's what level 2 is about. Nothing hard, nothing complicated, just a gentle introduction into the things. A gentle introduction to Jesus. It's not about church, it's all about introductions to Jesus. It's what we're about. We're not about bringing them into the church, we're about introducing them to Jesus with that evangelism. And CVMen has got a huge list of speakers. Level 2, again, a great level 2, and this is going on right now. And if you've got a corner in your prayers this weekend, CVMen run I've got a timeshare that was bought for them a few years ago. And every year they take up to 30 blokes to this sports club, Lanzarote, and the deal is you go as a Christian and you take one non-Christian mate. So there's now 26 blokes out there, 13 Christians, 13 non-Christians. And I just had an email through saying that they've just done the first evening tour. They play sport all day and then they do gentle stuff in the evening. And he said it's the best first evening they've ever had. So if you've got calling in prayers, let's pray for those 13 bloke non-Christians out there in Lanzarote at the moment. Level 3, again, we're pretty good at this. Alpha courses, talk more about this in the margins. Think about running male-only courses, works. And then level 4, discipleship in a man-friendly church. We mentioned earlier on about the fact that the church can be very feminine. And so there's some stuff that, again, we need to think through. Male-only house groups, not every week, but once every now and again, to give blokes permission to talk about. The stuff we're going to talk about, we discuss Bible study in the pub once a month. Brilliant. Half a dozen Christians sat around the pub talking about this stuff. The locals love it. They come and join in, they shout abuse, but we sat there in the pub with our Bibles out. It's brilliant. It really does work. It's outreach as well as good stuff for us, and you have a nice beer. Don't know if you run accountability groups, prayer triplets, male only, brilliant. Great opportunity to get alongside other blokes, really get to know other Christians, opportunity to be honest and open. Audit your church from a male perspective, that's always an interesting one. You know, get your non-Christian mates to walk in and go, what message do I get when I walk in here? Flowers, banners, flags, you know. They're all rubbish most of it for blokes. Worship song list, fine, you probably know all about this. There, some of our worship songs, you know, it's not like the language that we use as blokes. Your name is like honey on my lips. There's loads of stuff like that. Carl Beach wrote this amazing blog, Jesus is my boyfriend songs and other God snob songs. Look it up on the internet, great, it gets the point across. But then it's all about, we do go over the top on some of it, almost on purpose, just to make a point.
What's the prayer triplet?
Prayer triplet is three blokes getting together on a regular basis to become accountable to one another, spending time as men so that you can really form a deep bond or a deep relationship and begin to talk about stuff that's really going on in your life, rather than over coffee on a Sunday morning after church. How's everything going? Fine. Actually begin to form a real relationship and bond. And we've found since we've started running in the church that actually men are because they're coming together at that level and forming that bond with other Christians, actually they're stronger, they're more equipped, they feel more protected, if you like, in prayer, to go out and be bolder in their outreach, their evangelism and all this bit. And it just gives them an opportunity to be honest. If you're struggling with porn on the telly, actually, who are you going to, you're not going to go and talk to Edna after coffee on a Sunday morning, but you might go and talk to the two blokes who you're journeying with in utter confidentiality. So it's about relationship, and we're talking about tomorrow, about all this stuff. Again, talk happily. I'll skip the next one because time is marching rapidly on. Blokes like strategy, and I think it's always good to have a strategy for what we're about. I'm sure you've got a strategy for this weekend, CVMen has a strategy, but sometimes when you're running your church or your men's group, your strategy is just like, you know where you want to go this weekend, but actually, how are we going to get there? And I love this little clip, I don't know if you've seen this before. The challenge is to get the Toyota, have you seen it? It's brilliant, isn't it? You've got to get the Toyota over the river. And actually, some of our stuff that we're doing at church or even at work,
Taking the water.
you feel like you're bailing all the time, My favourite shot is coming up any minute now. This next bloke here, look at him, brilliant! Help, it's all going wrong! We're sinking! Do you feel like that? I know you sometimes. You feel like it's all going wrong. You're sinking. No, you might feel like that this weekend. But you're just bailing to keep it all on track. Brilliant.
Yeah.
But, sometimes it can feel like that, kind of life can feel like that, church can feel like that, and certainly running a men's programme can feel like that. But the lovely thing about God is that when it does go wrong, when it does go wrong, you can plan something, you can strategise something, and you can imagine they've been planning this for months. It's a new water system just bought for their army. They're actually filming it, so it must have been quite important. There we go. you feel like that? Some of us do. Brilliant.
What happened?
I don't know.
What happened?
I don't know, but it's funny enough. Isn't it? I'll skip over some of this stuff. We can talk about this in the margin. Some of the other stuff that CVMen does, and this will come up over the weekend. Happy to talk to you more about that. What I'm going to do now, in the next 10 minutes, is that okay? 10 minutes, all right? I'm going to talk about. I'm going to introduce you to the code. I'm going to let Carl Beach introduce you to the code because he does it far better than I do, and he wrote it. So that's got to be a reasonable way to. Hang on, let me just go
Let's be clear on something. Being a follower of Jesus isn't for the faint-hearted. It's not a lifestyle for those who are looking for a soft, quiet life. Neither is it a lifestyle for those who are happier living in subcultures who have barricaded themselves in with like-minded people and just hoping to somehow survive this pagan culture. Imagine being in an army that's been tasked to rescue millions of people. They've been encircled by a vicious, violent, brutal enemy that's murdering and torturing people. But this army of rescuers, it just stands by because he's got too concerned about his own internal power struggles, about his rights and his privileges. So it's suffered a confidence crash after years of apathy and inaction and have forgotten how to fight. That's not the army I'm in. It's not the army I wanted to be a part of. My battle manual told me to be a man who fights the good fight. It's told me to run the race. It's told me to get myself in training. It's told me to put my arm on and to take the fight right to the heart of the enemy. I've been warned stuff too. I've been told there'll be casualties. I've been told to share in the sufferings of my brother soldiers. I've been told that many of my comrades will fall, some by being deceived if that were even possible. I've been told that at the height of the struggle, some of my brothers may face prison or even death. But nowhere in my battle manual does it tell me to surrender, retreat, give in, negotiate. It tells me I may fail. But then I'm told to take it on the chin, to quit sulking, to man up and get back into the fight. It tells me we aren't kids anymore, and that sometimes we need to get bruised and wounded because actually that's part of our battle training. It's part of our character formation. It tells me, my battle manual, that there's no place for apathy, for backing down or letting up. So we've taken this battle manual and we've drawn up some standing orders. Now we are a movement of men that realise that we are in a battle, a massive battle, and we are a movement of men that knows that there is a war on. So we've decided to live by a set of values. We call them the code. We've spent 2 years getting ready for this, and now an army is gathering. And the enemy, our enemy, he hasn't seen us coming. We were about to be joined in battle. Of that you can be absolutely assured. And we're looking for men to join us. No more sulking. No more confidence crash. No more individualism. No more friendly fire. No more rubbish about love and compassion not being manly. They're human values. It's time we love so much that we laid our lives down. It's time that we showed so much compassion and demonstrated so much compassion to the hurting that it actually hurts us. It's time to pull people out of the gutter instead of actually looking into it. It's time to stand against the pornographers and the sex traffickers. It's time to use our strength to protect the weak and stand against the poor use of power. Time to tell the bully in the power place to get stuffed and kick them out. Time to confront the nut who's bringing our army's reputation to disrepute. It's time to create a culture of honour. It's time to show no compromise and truthfulness, honour and integrity. It's time we follow our master and commander Jesus into battle. Will you join us?
That's Carl. That's the overview, if you like, of where we're at with the code and code life. And just before we end, just going to very quickly run through. And what we're going to do over the next couple of days is we're going to look at some of these points, these standing orders, and they really, if you take them seriously, they challenge what we do on a daily basis, very practical, and that's what we want this weekend to be. So you go away with some practical challenges, some things that we're going to change in our lives, things that we're going to actually do. And it's not replacing the Bible. I stress that, and we're not saying that for a moment. Just click on through here. There's 12 statements. We've got a copy of the book for you all. First one is this: Jesus is my captain, our brother, my rescuer and friend. That's the foundation of all that we believe. Devotion: I owe everything to him. I will do anything for him. Witness: I will unashamedly make him known through my actions and words. Integrity: I will not cheat in anything personal or professional. Quite a challenge, that one. Purity, but without self-righteousness. I'll look away from the gutter, but be prepared to pull others from it. Physical fitness. We're not talking about running marathons. Well, some of us do. Sacrifice. I put the welfare of those closest to me before my own welfare. I will treat all men and women as brothers and sisters. Harmony, unity. One for all of us who's in business. I will lead as he would lead. I will honour my leaders, provided this also honours him, and I will follow him in company with my sisters and brothers apart from the church. Justice: I use my strength to protect the weak and stand against the abuse of power, against the bully at work, rather than just standing by and letting it go on. I will protect the world that God has made. Stewardship. And finally, if I fail, I will not give up, because he does not give up on me. So those are the 12 codes that we're going to look at. We're not going to look at all of them. We will touch on all of them. We're going to look at them in 3 sessions over tomorrow. But what I think we're going to end up, I'm going to ask in a moment Mike to come back and lead us in Be Thou My Vision to close our time tonight. If you want to come and sort yourself out, Mike, I'll shift you that lot while Mike sets up. But I think this weekend, if you look at, sometimes we come away on these things, something like this, and we think we've got to make a massive jump on our faith journey. Let's go into this weekend thinking we're going to move one step on that faith journey. At least one step. Make one promise, if you like. One challenge, something that you're doing on a daily basis or a monthly basis that you know is not in accordance with this code. Are you standing by at work and letting the bully get away with something? Are you looking at porn on the telly? Nobody else knows about it but God. Are you drinking too much? Whatever it may be. Are you not giving your kids the time that they deserve because you're so busy at work, pushing for that extra bit of money on your salary? Is it worth it? Whatever it may be. And we'll touch on some of these things as we go through in our discussions and in your personal, hopefully your personal quiet times. A desire this weekend to catch a glimpse of who God is a new glimpse, it may only be a glimpse, his love, his faithfulness, his compassion, his mercy, rather than just knowledge. I'm not about head knowledge. All too often on some of these weekends we cram it in up here, but actually it's got to move down here. And that's what the code's about. It's down here affecting what we do and our actions. And the codes are simply tools to help us in this faith journey. Well, one thing I'd like to stress is that don't go through the weekend thinking you failed in any of these codes, that you're a failure, because you're not. God wants you to, God views you that you're wanting to be faithful. If you want to do business with God, He sees that. He sees you as being faithful. Faithful at home, faithful at work, and faithful in mission. Faithful to take some of this stuff back and start talking to our mates about it. To go down the golf club and talk to... I keep talking about the golf club. I don't play golf. I hate golf. It's a complete waste of time. But I still talk about it. But, that's where God wants us to be faithful. And when we fall, pick ourselves up, dust ourselves. He wants to be our vision. He wants us to be focused on Him. And this weekend is a great time to draw aside and do that. And hopefully, looking down these codes, discussing them in our little groups tomorrow. And there'll be a lot of that tomorrow. There won't be me waffling on for much. Hopefully, we'll move this weekend another step on our faith journey. Be now my vision.